Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I just want to quickly talk to you about a little bit of news that was tweeted on Friday, which I missed. Uh, the Economist Peter Schiff warns the US dollar will crash. Says we're going to default. Okay, so what he's talking about is the dollar is going to crash and the USA is going to default on their loans and everything. Okay, let's continue. Economist Peter Schiff has warned that the US dollar will crash, noting that the US is in a much bigger fiscal mess than Great Britain. With a much bigger debt problem, Schiff stressed, can we possibly repay this debt? Of course not. Repaying this debt is impossible. So what's going to happen? We're going to default. Okay, because I don't know if you know, but the US debt. Okay, that owe China a hell of a lot of money. Okay, because I think China bailed them out during the war. They gave America billions of dollars, and if they if they default, okay, if they default on their loan or their debt, okay, um, they're gonna they're gonna suffer. Goldbug and economist Peter Schiff shared his outlook for the US dollar in a podcast titled "When this sucker's rally ends, the dollar will crash." Oh, this was published Saturday. Okay, he explained that the US has major problems that will lead to the crash of the US dollar. Referencing the situation in Britain, Schiff said that the UK is concerned about increasing debts. The country's debt to GDP ratio is around 85%, and former Prime Minister, that evil woman, okay, threatened to send British debt to GDP even higher. The Economist described, noting that investors rightly dumped the pound. However, he added they sold pounds for dollars. The irony is they were buying dollars despite the fact that the United States has an even bigger debt problem. Okay, the US national debt is now above 31 trillion. Can you imagine? The US has a 31 trillion debt over its head. Okay, and the government ran a 1.38 trillion budget deficits in the fiscal year of 2022. Schiff explained that the debt to GDP ratio in the US is actually higher than 125% when factoring in state and local debt. The ratio balloons to 140%. He elaborated. Okay, we're in a much bigger fiscal mess than Great Britain, so selling pounds and buying dollars because you're worried that Britain has too much debt is jumping from the frying pan and into the fire. Of course, it is. Schiff stress that it is ridiculous that people bought US treasuries as a safe haven, adding that it it is also absurd to sell a country's currency due to debt problems and buy dollars when the US has even more debt. Yeah, something fishy there's something funny going on here. In the UK, pretty much all the debt is on a national level. They don't have the states like we do, and they don't have all the municipalities. Like the different uh, towns, different uh, different different police states, So we have so many levels of debt. He pointed out, emphasizing that governments are funding themselves from the same tax base. He opined these governments are trying to get blood from the same turnips because Americans are broke, we have no savings, so can we possibly repay this debt? Of course not. Repaying the debt is impossible. So what's going to happen? We're going to default. Okay, so he's explaining now that is two possible ways the US will default on debt. Okay, the Economist proceeded to detail that there are only two possible ways we can default: the honest way and the dishonest way. But either is a disaster if you own US treasuries. Schiff continues. Whoops. Continues. The honest way is just to admit that we can't pay and we default. Well, that's not a choice. We restructure the debt and tell our creditors, China, he believes that politicians do not have the integrity to do it, noting. Okay, moving on. They're going to take the coward's way out. They're going to print. They're going. They're they're going to inflate the debt anyway. It's crazy for anyone to believe that the Fed is going to succeed in reducing inflation back down to 2%. It can't. No, there's no way. There's no way in hell that's going to happen. He further cautioned that as the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, the problem gets bigger. His statement echoes a warning he made recently that the Fed's actions could lead to market crashes. Up, we've seen that, right? A massive financial crisis, we've seen that, right? And a severe recession, we've also seen that, right? Schiff also tweeted uh, Wednesday, the US merchandise trade deficit unexpectedly jumped by 5.7% in September as imports rose by 0.8% and exports fell by 1.5%, breaking a 5-month streak of falling trade deficits, he concluded. Now that the dollar is weakening, future trade deficits will widen, causing the dollar to fall further. Yeah, you know why? Because you got other countries that are not going to use the dollar, right? Uh, yeah, that's it. Okay, so you got other countries that are not going to use the dollar. Okay, so you got France last week. They bought a ton of oil using the Chinese yuan. Okay, you got Iran. They don't want to use the dollar for buying oil. You got China, of course. You got China that don't want to use the dollar. You got Russia that don't want to use the dollar anymore. Uh, you got Africa that say they're gonna stop using the dollar soon. Okay, and I think you had Egypt. Okay, Egypt planning not to use the dollar uh, this year. Uh, I said Iran. Okay, you got Africa, and also you got Saudi, the biggest oil maker producer in the world. They're not going to use the US dollar, and if America, right, want to buy oil, they have to use the Chinese yuan or a cryptocurrency that they want. There's no more using the US dollar. I'm sorry, but if America doesn't want to pay uh, to buy the oil using uh, the Chinese yuan or a cryptocurrency, then they won't be able to trade. I'm sorry, that's as simple as that. They won't be able to trade. Okay. Um, So, as I said, you've got all these countries bailing out the US dollar, okay, and I think it's just gonna hit rock bottom within the next couple of months. You wait. Russia, China, Iran, Saudi, even India, okay, maybe India, because they're part of the BRICS nations. Okay, you got Brazil, they're not going to use the dollar. Okay, you wait the next 3 or 4 months when all those countries refuse to take the US dollar. You will see the biggest crash of the US dollar ever, guys. I'm saying within 5 to 6 months, the dollar is going to crash, and there's going overnight there will be a savior. It could be crypto, or it could be the Chinese yuan that everybody uses. Okay, okay, that's my thought on this matter. I thought I'd bring it to you, and thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for more news stories like this, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.